And we're back. That was the lovely Marilyn Harris in one of the nicest little jazz waltzes I've ever heard. In studio, I have another, I'm not going to say old friend, a lady I've known for quite a while, Ms. Stacy Chaikin.
Hey, Julio.
Hi. And we first met over your play, Looking for Louie.
We did. That was, 2000?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And you came on my show. We talked about that. And you're the one who introduced me to storytelling.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Wow.
It was because of you that I went to Anything But Stand-Up at the Jennifer's Coffee Connection, because I was so impressed when you told me you had developed much of your one-person play doing a series of little storyettes.
Yeah, and that's basically how I continue to work. I find somewhere in public to try stuff out and then start putting things together. It's kind of how I think on my feet in front of an audience.
And one of the things that really impressed me about Looking for Louie is that there was one person up there, and yet you were telling this epic tale that traveled continents, had masses of people in it, including a wildly functional, dysfunctional family.
Yes.
And that was taken from your own life and your own history.
Looking for Louie was actually autobiographical. Looking for Louie led to a commission to write my next play in Israel, which led to a couple of years on and off in Israel, where I wrote a play called The Dig, which everybody says, is that autobiographical? Because I play an archaeologist. And so the question of autobiography gets really interesting because it is kind of autobiographical, but the person, the me character, is no longer me, which is pretty interesting. Yeah.
And you're going to be performing tomorrow night, Los Angeles Women's Theater Festival at the Electric Lodge. That's a lovely complex in Venice. Mm-hmm. And this is titled What She Left, and it's based on Holocaust narratives. And your description I really love. A woman fighter in the forest. What we are capable of when we have a fierce drive to live and there is nothing left to lose.
Yes.
Well, now, this seems like it took a lot of work.
It did, and it took a lot of time to figure out exactly what to do. The Wolf Gruner, who sits in the chair of Jewish history at USC, saw the Israel play, The Dig, at USC when I did one of my sort of works in progress readings of it. And he had just brought to USC a 400-item archive of Holocaust and genocide materials. And he was doing an inaugural event, and he wanted to know if I would make a piece based on that archive. And I had spent most of my life avoiding the Holocaust, as anybody in their right mind would do. And but it was tremendously challenging, and I sat in that, it's in the basement of Doheny Library at USC, and I just sat there for a year. Looking at all the red books on one shelf and all the blue books on another shelf, trying to find my way in. And what I discovered about myself was that, and what I discovered about the Holocaust and genocide in general, is that a huge weapon of those kinds of atrocities has to do with impotence, making people feel like they're impotent. And I am, as a human, allergic to impotence. Impossibility is something I can't go anywhere near. I'm like an Energizer rabbit around that. There has to be something you can do. And finally, I realized that my only way in was, as much as I was resisting the topic, was in fact resistance. And so What She Left is a piece about kind of the fulcrum between impotence and action. What happens when there is impotence is imposed by the oppressor. Here the Nazi, the Gestapo in the Warsaw Ghetto, and the moment when a person who has been put in that situation takes action, can take action, is released to take action, and where we go from there. And what gets passed on from there.
In terms of your research, is there any one thing that you thought ignited the direction you were going to go?
Well, I mean, I had a dream that kind of turned the corner for me. I was sitting, and the only image I could get in my mind was, because of course I'm very interested in myself and my response to things, because that's, sort of the basis of what I do. I find my way in and then kind of figure it out. And I had this image of sitting in front of a bathtub full of boiling hot water and knowing that I needed to stick my feet in. And all I could think about was, I'm resisting this. I am resisting just this material, this world, which is so horrific. And one morning I woke up after having a dream of a newspaper where the headline was, in big block letters, resistance. And I had never made the connection between my personal resistance to the material itself and the movement of resistance during the World War II, and that's where I found my way in. And I'd read about the Bielski family. They made Defiance, about a Polish family who went into the forest and built an army and saved thousands and thousands of people. And at that point, I started looking at, I'm a woman. I need to play a woman, obviously. It's women's stories that I'm interested in. And at that point, I started doing more focused research on women in the forest during the war.
Now, I'm so used to you because I've only seen Looking for...
Right.
No, I saw you at another play at Pacific Resident Theater.
Right.
But in terms of a solo show, where you were able to segue into these different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And in this particular case, are you segueing into personalities, or are you doing this from the third person?
No, this one is really tricky, and because the piece starts with me, the me character, and the me character, from my point of view, is always somebody who is in the room with the audience, right? And she says she was smaller than me, thinner than me, at the time much younger than me, though you can see in pictures she looks older than me. Because the moment she saw the child, sometimes she said it was her daughter, sometimes her little sister, who knows, maybe it was her neighbor's child. So it's a person who's in the room with you now, in the third person, talking about another woman's experience. And, about halfway through you realize that the woman whose experience I'm talking about is my grandmother. And that this is the story that has been passed on to me, which is, that's what she left, which is the title refers to. What she left to me and what she leaves to ongoing generations. Yeah.
Now, you're doing this as part of the Women's Theater Festival, which is an annual event, and there are a number of women participating in this. How long is your piece?
My piece is 20 minutes. And the whole festival this year is called Solo But Not Alone, and there is another really lovely young actress working with me in the piece, Amanda Hillsberg.
Yeah. And by the way, the name of the work is What She Left, written and performed by my in-studio guest, Stacy Chaikin. And this is a lovely facility at 1416 Electric Avenue in Venice, once you find parking. And although they do have their own...
They have a lot.
Yeah. It's just if you want to go to a restaurant later. But the place to get tickets is online to LAWTF, as in Tom, F.org. And this event is, I think the Women's Theater Festival is beginning tonight.
It started last night. And it's tomorrow during the afternoon, and tomorrow evening.
And Saturday, March 28th at 7 p.m. things begin.
Yeah.
So, and what are you going to be doing next?
Next is... a full realization of the Israel play, The Dig. I did what I consider the last workshop with an audience at Pacific Resident Theater, which has very generously provided space for me. They premiered Looking for Louie, and they've done, I think, 2 or 3 extended workshops of The Dig, which probably needs a new name after the USA Network show.
Oh,
Dig. But so I did. I think I've finished the text, or at least gotten it to a point where I'm really ready to go into rehearsal with a director. I've been working with Pam Berlin in New York for many years on it, and so that's my focus right now, is to find a home for this play.
Well, if you want to support theater here in Los Angeles and see a plethora of very talented ladies performing and writing, please take in the Los Angeles Women's Theater Festival this weekend. And again, the place to get tickets is online at lawtf.org. And 30 minutes goes by really fast on this show. Please stay tuned to Pacifica Performance Showcase, produced and hosted by Donna Walker. Her guest is going to be Viggo Mortensen, and she'll tell you everything you need to know about Viggo Mortensen. Thank you for supporting KPFK. Thank you for supporting Arts in Review. We're moving into our 27th year of doing this, and the only reason we're here is because of KPFK supporters. That's you. See you next week.